can do as the inter.
Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching Primetime Asia on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines this hour. President Trump says Nvidia and other US chip makers can sell their advanced H200 chips to approved customers in China after months of pressure from industry leaders. He says the move protects national security and jobs, while Nvidia welcomes the decision amid ongoing US-China tech tensions. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi says Japan's claim that Chinese fighter jets targeted radar on Japanese aircraft is completely unacceptable. Japan calls the encounter dangerous, while China accuses Tokyo of repeatedly approaching and disrupting its navy during training. Thailand says it is moving to expel Cambodian troops as fighting along their disrupted border intensifies, with Cambodia reporting 6 dead. Both sides blame each other as the violence undermines the Trump-brokered ceasefire that halted earlier July clashes. The final US defense spending bill would force the Pentagon to end its reliance on China and other foreign suppliers for electronic displays by 2030. The measure is part of this year's National Defense Authorization Act, which could face a vote in Congress this week. New Zealand says its Navy's largest ship saw a Taiwanese warship and was shadowed by 7 Chinese vessels while transiting the Taiwan Strait last month. Defense officials say all ships kept a safe and professional distance during the passage. Militants attacked a security checkpoint in Kurram near the Afghan border, killing 6 soldiers and 3 police, according to security sources. The assault comes as Pakistan and Afghanistan try to hold a fragile truce after deadly border clashes in October. The death toll from the deadly high-rise building fire has now risen to 160 as the police completes final stage of rescue operations. As per reports, 120 of 160 identities have been confirmed. All right, viewers, let's start the bulletin with the top focus on Primetime Asia. This news from Thailand that's coming in. All right. In fact, before we move on to that, let's start with the news from India. Now, amid mass cancellations of flights across the country, the largest airline, Indigo, has now said it is set to deliver 8,500 pieces of stranded luggage to passengers by 7 p.m. local time today. So far, deliveries have been completed at 49 of the airline's 94 destinations, but around 800 bags are still pending at 45 airports. The airline says it is working around the clock to ensure all luggage reaches its owners as quickly as possible. The delays come amid accusations of willful negligence by Indigo with regards to Indian civil aviation regulators' new FTDL rules. Indigo has reassured passengers that operations have been optimized and on-time performance has now returned to normal levels. Meanwhile, the airline is set to operate over 1,800 flights by close of day and plans to fly nearly 1,900 flights tomorrow, connecting all 138 stations in its network. And retired Group Captain Dr. V.N. Jha, who is the retired officer of the Indian Air Force and a senior scientist and a former joint director at India's Defense Research and Development Organization, now joins us live. Thank you, Dr. Jha, for joining us here at NewsX World. Now, of course, some positive developments, but a very sharp reaction has come from the Civil Aviation Minister this morning in Parliament, where he says that he's going to set an example and take a stern action. Do you think this is an opportune time to have new airlines start up?
well, it is easier said than done. Uh, Starting any airline which can have substantial share in the carriage of the passengers is not so easy. We have seen so many of the airlines in India taken birth and then gone to the back burner, behind the back burner. It has gone beyond the scene. There are so many. So it's easier said than done that the more will be started. I think whatever is here right now, that has to be managed properly with some amount of government, overseeing the operations, especially the aspects where it affects the passengers. Secondly, the DGCO also, I think at times we have seen it acting in as a tight glass doors in isolations, taking decisions absolutely on its own. Those things should be avoided. What we have seen happening in the on Indigo is the net result of that lack of coordination with the operators. Look, operators are also, any operator is working for their profit. They are not doing the charity service. They have employed so many thousands, lakhs of recruits, their employees whom they have to pay and they have to earn for that, as well as the number of the aircraft that they are operating. Even those aircraft are depreciating in its value. So any airline is operating for some amount of gain, and if things go beyond hand, like what axe had fallen onto Indigo on the 1st of December, if the two party either could have taken initiative, had sat down couple of days before this axe had fallen, to have a relook whether they have implemented the directive, and if they have implemented, there is no problem. If they have not, then what concession can further be given to them? It could have been discussed. Look, the FDTL rules before 1st of December was nothing compromising the pilot operation. But since there is an international agency, ICAO, FAA, they have all different types of regulations. India also wanted to adopt that. Fair enough. It would have been improvement, but it was not till before say 1st December. It was not in the dangerous zone of pilots fatigue. That norm was different. The new norm had come, little harshly onto them, because either it is the rest period, whether it is the night landing of considerations that has been changed, and extending the definition of the night hours. So those things have gone there. It could have been well absorbed in a cushioned manner without affecting operation, but that has not. But those discussions we have already had earlier. Now what is happening is, today when minister said that he is going to have action taken which could be exemplary. What action could be taken as exemplary? Look, have they defeated any of the norms? If there was a flexibility, if there was a norm given earlier, and if they have not adopted, well, DGCF could have stopped the operation. They could have stopped the operation, and the result would have been the same what you are seeing here now. Because today we book our tickets month, 2 months, 3 months before. And if operation is going to be stopped, say today, all those people who have booked their flights, say 3 months, 4 months, 5 months earlier, what will happen to them? It's the same. It's the same panic. What has happened there? So it is not an easy task that the civil aviation minister can say and that can be implemented. Well, he is within the rights that he will take exemplary the action. Fair enough. He has constituted a committee to look into the aspect what actually had gone wrong, and when the recommendations come, I'm sure it will be diluted. It is the shared responsibility of all concerned. Now, second thing, you mentioned the bags. Look, this is not the first time when the bags are being returned to the people after a few days. We have seen it happening in Europe. We have seen it happening elsewhere, where the massive number of the bags had gone hayward to wrong addresses, to wrong destinations.
Well, bags are the least of concerns for, I'm sure, everybody involved. There's a larger concern about the crisis that the Indian aviation is facing. The government is saying that they're going to set an exemplary, step. But what step could that be? And who's going to hold Indigo accountable? And what's in the future? They are saying that they will operate 1900 flights tomorrow, but there was a cap that was put in place, and I don't know if this 1900 is in keeping to that cap.
I think Government of India as well as DGCA should have a logical approach. Look, right now, whatever is the number of the aircraft, whatever is the number of the operators, it is going to enhance drastically in the coming years. India has ordered more than 1,000 more aircraft, more commercial aircraft. What will happen when all these aircraft comes for operations? So you have to have a logical approach to the aviation. You just can't, put a brake that no operation here. What happens to the passengers who are booked? So take all those things into the factor, see how the performance or how the efficiency of any particular operator can be enhanced safely, keep that safety factor. And fatigue is something what is very difficult to define. When we had done our specialization in the human factor in aviation way back in 1982-83, there was a fight going on even that time. What should be the FDTL? And the same thing remains today. And the best example is India. I at the age of 72, I get fatigued within 4 or 5 hours if I do something. And a person here in India who is 2 years elder to me can work for 18 hours per day or 21 hours per day, 24/7 for last 12 years he has been working. Mr. Narendra Modi, PM Narendra Modi. But he is not fatigued. So there is a vast reserve in the fatigue level of any person, which of course depends on many variables. That should be kept in the mind. So when we say that 8 hours for the pilot, your FDL, flight time restriction, FTL, it's going to be harsh onto someone. It could going to be pleasing to someone. So this is one raw area, and especially in India, even we own guild of specialists, we have kept on talking onto this. I insist that India should have a firm scientifically based FDTL prepared, in which there are scientific basis. Just not like acts because ICAO does this, Australia does this, so and so does it. No, we should not go by that. Every ethnic people, every ethnic belonging of the pilots, that has got a consideration on the fatigue level itself. I give you example.
I'll have to interrupt you, Dr. Jha. I have some paucity of time here, but fatigue is one question, of course. One thing that you would agree on is to end the duopoly that's plaguing the Indian airline, and with that, viewers, we shift our focus. Now, China is saying that it has conducted its 10th Joint Strategic Air Patrol with Russia over the East China Sea and the Western Pacific. Beijing's Defense Ministry described the patrol as part of an annual cooperation plan between the two militaries. The flight involved long-range bombers from both sides operating in international airspace. The announcement came shortly after South Korea said it scrambled fighter jets after detecting Chinese and Russian aircraft entering and leaving its air defense identification zone on Tuesday. Seoul stressed there was no violation of its territorial airspace, but said the move raised security concerns. The joint patrols have continued despite tension in the region as China and Russia signal closer military alignment. All right, and I now request Dr. Jha to join us back into the discussion here, and also joining us is Mr. Satoru Nagao, who is a fellow at the Hudson Institute. He joins us live from Tokyo. And I'd like to take my first question to you, Mr. Nagao. Now, of course, China and Russia say that the exercise are routine and something that they have been doing for some time now, but what's the threat perception to South Korea from these exercises?
Threat perception is location is the first one, and other thing is both China and Russia 3D-based ally of the North Korea. That is another concern, because South Korea, there is a high possibility that North Korea's provocation will be the first contact of the as a military operation. So that's why they need to fight with North Korea. But in this case, there's a high possibility that under the current 3D-based alliances, both China and Russia will support North Korea. So that's why South Korea's battle against North Korea could be South Korea versus 3 countries. So that's why if China and Russia conducted a joint operation in the Japan Sea or the Yellow Sea, if such kind of things has happened, the view from South Korea, even if these 2 countries are not North Korea, there's a possibility that they could be the enemy with North Korea. So that's why the view from South Korea, this is dangerous. And recently, joint operation of China and Russia is not merely the joint patrol, but also the more deepened secret activities in the many areas. For example, Russia has a strategic purpose bases in the Siberia, but recently we can find China's presence in these bases. So that's why there is a possibility that not just a symbolic joint patrol, but also the very deep secret military cooperation has ongoing. And so that's why this is a really threat for not only South Korea, but also Japan, the US, or all of the regional countries. So this is a global alliance that just now.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Nagao, for helping us with that. But do stay on. There's some more news coming in from China that we'd like to give our viewers. Now, according to reports, Beijing is set to limit access to NVIDIA's H200 AI chips despite US President Trump's recent decision to allow their export to China. Chinese regulators are considering limited access to the H200, NVIDIA's second most advanced chip, which could complicate US chipmakers' efforts to tap the Chinese market. While Trump's announcement aimed to resolve the debate over exporting AI technology, Beijing's move adds a potential barrier. NVIDIA's stock, which rose 2% in pre-market trading, pared gains to 0.6% shares. Shares of AMD and Intel also saw modest increases. Beijing has been pushing back against the US tech, particularly NVIDIA, in response to American restrictions. Trump's decision includes a 25% fee on H200 exports, though analysts suggest the impact on NVIDIA's China business may be limited unless additional chip lines are allowed for export. NVIDIA's stock has surged nearly 40% this year, outperforming the S&P 500's 16.4% rise. And now moving on, Thailand has told the United States that the threat of tariffs should not be used to pressure it into restarting talks with Cambodia or halting renewed border fighting. Thai Foreign Minister Sihasak Phuong Ketkiao said on Tuesday that it is up to Phnom Penh to take steps to de-escalate the conflict. Hostilities reignited on Monday after weeks of simmering tension, killing at least 12 people and forcing hundreds of thousands to flee border areas, with both nations accusing the other of firing the first shots. In July, following fierce clashes, US President Donald Trump intervened, warning that negotiations with Washington over lower trade tariffs would be put on hold unless the fighting stopped. A Trump administration official has reiterated that the president expects both countries to honor their commitments to end the conflict. Sihasek added that the current situation is not conducive to third-party mediation and stressed that Cambodia must show sincerity and make the first move to restart dialogue and reduce tension along the border. Let's listen in.
We don't think tariffs should be used to pressure Thailand to get back to the joint declaration, to get back to a dialogue process. No. I think the situation regarding Thailand and Cambodia has to be resolved on the basis of its own dynamics. And tariffs, they're part of the trade negotiations. It should be confined to trade negotiations.
All right, I now request Mr. Nagao to join us back into the discussion here. Mr. Nagao is a fellow at the Hudson Institute and joins us live from Tokyo. Mr. Nagao, now it seems to us from the readings that Trump likely feels defeated after his brokered peace deal or secession in border clashes were violated. And in fact, Thailand has also issued a statement to that effect that the peace deal is put off now. But Trump, of course, now giving threat of sanctions. But what role can the ASEAN play here, given that Cambodia has said that it should not, and even Thailand is saying that the threat of sanctions should not be used in this situation, and it is not in favor of a third-party mediation?
ASEAN face a problem now because so if there is something ASEAN can do, in this case they set up the negotiation table between two, but that's all. So except this, there is no option for ASEAN. So that's why in the negotiation table, of course, something the card to negotiate is needed. In this case, President Trump's sanction is the only way. So without President Trump's sanctions, ASEAN cannot do anything. That is the current situation. But in this case, the view from the military power, indeed, Thailand can decide everything. Because Thailand has air power, Thailand has naval power, so sophisticated weapon. Only Thailand has, Cambodia does not have. So in this case, if Thailand decide to attack, of course they can do that. And if Thailand stop fighting, they can do that. But perception of the Thailand is Cambodia provoked Thailand first, set up the mines, and the Thailand soldier has dead. That's why the view from Thailand now is the time to punish them. So that's why certain level of punish the Thailand has already decided to impose. So that's why the recent air bombing and naval attack has happened. So in this case, the purpose is punishment, not occupy the Cambodia, but at the same time, this is needed Thailand believe. That's why it has happened. So only the concern Thailand has is, not only the two things that Thailand concern is Cambodia continue to provoke Thailand, and another one is President Trump's possible rise of the tariff. So that's why the Thailand ministry said imposing tariff for the peace negotiation is not proper, because there's a high possibility that during the Thailand's punish operation against Cambodia, President Trump will be upset and imposing the economic sanction, which is rising tariff, could happen. So that is a concern for Thailand. But anyway, what Thailand want to do is that against Cambodia's provocation, they want to punish Cambodia, because despite Cambodia is weak, they provoked Thailand. So now is the time for Thailand to do this, they believe.
All right. Thank you for your comment there, Mr. Nagao, and joining us here at NewsX World for now. We move on, viewers, and before we wrap up this bulletin, there's news from Hong Kong on the fire tragedy. The death toll in the fire that ripped through 7 high-rise towers in Hong Kong last November has risen now to 160 after police completed the final stage of search operations. The blaze that tore through a high-rise apartment complex late last month was the world's deadliest residential building blazed since 1980. The identities of 120 out of the 160 dead have been identified via DNA or fingerprint testing. Authorities earlier said the blaze at the estate, which was undergoing major renovations, was likely made more worse by the use of protective netting on its scaffolding that did not meet fire resistance standards. The netting, as well as foam boards attached to the windows during the work, contributed to the spread of the fire, as per the authorities. Now, with the ongoing investigation into the fire, police have arrested 15 people from various construction companies for manslaughter and another 6 people in connection to fire alarms that failed to sound. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.